Welcome to this very special segment with Jorge Padron of Padron Cigars. I'm Will Cooper of Stogie Geeks with Seth from Seth's Humidor, and we're here with the one and only Jorge Padron. George, thank you very much for taking some time to join us today.
All right, Will, how are you? Hey, Seth.
Yeah. So we'll get right into it.
Padron Cigars has been in existence for 50 years. You know, what have you done over those years to keep the momentum going? And, you know, what's it like to be a family business that has been family run for 50 years?
Well, Seth, I mean, I don't think it's that complicated, actually. I think it's fairly simple. You know, we've always strived to maintain quality in our cigars and produce a quality product. And we've been fortunate that we've stuck to our guns, and we've been able to build a very loyal customer base that continues to support our brand. You know, that's one of the advantages of having a family business that, you know, sometimes we make, not sometimes, all the times, we make decisions that are the best for our brand and not necessarily the best financial decisions at the time. But over the course of time, they do tend to pay off and pay huge dividends.
Absolutely, and you've been incredibly successful over those years. William?
So, George, when did you exactly take the reins as president of Padron Cigars?
Well, I became president probably about 8 years ago. Taking the reins is probably not the best way to explain it because, you know, in a family business, titles really don't mean much. You know, my father is still very active in the business. Even at 88 years of age today, he still participates in everything we do. And I have other family members that also work in the business. My brother Orlando, my cousin Rodolfo, nephews, nieces. So you know, it's a real family business, and we all partake in the responsibility. So you know, it's a fun thing, and it's a great thing for our family.
So is there ever a time where, you know, you've maybe been working on a project and your dad's kind of said to you, hey, that's pretty good, or maybe would I kind of do it this way?
That happens all the time. I mean, you know, all of the good decisions are made by him, and all the bad ones are made by us. So
Good answer.
That's how it works.
Good answer.
In a family business, but no, yeah. We discuss a lot of things. Everything that we do, we discuss it amongst ourselves. You know, obviously, my dad, even to this day, you know, we run everything by him to make sure he's in agreement with it. And you know, I'm fortunate to have a father that's been a visionary, that has understood the market and allowed us to do our thing and to build the brand.
I mean, 50 years, family-run company. You know, put the cigar industry aside. Any business today that's family-run for 50 years, that's an incredible milestone. You really should be really proud of this year. I mean, it's fantastic.
There's no doubt. I mean, we are very proud of the accomplishment. I mean, 50 years, like you say, it's a lot easier said than done. But, you know, again, I attribute everything to my father because he's been someone that's had tremendous vision, that's understood, you know, how to build a business, you know, from the ground up, and has given us the opportunity to, you know, to expand and to do and to put our ideas forward and listen to them.
Absolutely.
Everyone knows your brands today, whether it's the Family Reserve, Series 1926, but for a long time, it was just Padron, just the one line, and then mid-90s, you know, you gifted us with the 1964. What was it like for so many years just having two lines and, you know, triumphing over others, and how did you compete? What do you think separated you from the pack with what you had, and even today?
Well, I mean, I go back to the same issue. I mean, for us, it's always been about quality and not quantity of cigars. You know, my father understood early on the importance of that. And, you know, even in Miami, which is where he started back in '64, you know, even with a very modest and humble beginning, he always focused on that. And, you know, I think when we look back at history and see how the company was built, it's amazing that, you know, my dad had he had the framework and the mindset to say, you know what, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to produce this one cigar, and I'm going to make it good, and I'm going to make it as best as possible, and let the chips fall where they may. And that's how it was for 30 years until we turned 30, and then we introduced the 1964 anniversary series, which was sort of my brother and I's idea. You know, that we pushed it to him, and you know, he fell for it. and we're happy he did.
Yeah,
So-
it's a wonderful. I mean, it was a wonderful addition, and
Yeah.
I mean, along with that, it's just you always talk about the age of your tobacco, which is huge, and I know that plays a factor in the tobacco and the blends that you produce.
Well, I mean, the important thing is that for Padron, it's not always about introducing new products. I mean, we do introduce new products, but it's not what drives our business. Our business is driven by the core products that we have, and we bring in new products when we feel that there's a need for it, whether a new market condition that comes up, changes in customer tastes, where now, for example, they're wanting bigger ring gauges and those types of things, so we put out cigars to meet that demand. But it's not a company that drives business based on new product introductions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and actually, just following up with that, have you ever, felt the pressure to introduce new product? Like maybe, today you're seeing it's a what's new market, yet Padron's just been incredibly successful at not having to do that, just kind of keeping that consistency. But have you ever felt any pressure with that?
Fortunately, being a family business, we don't have those types of pressures, from stockholders or, other external forces that may exist. For us, it's always about, can we do it? Number one, can we do it the way we want to do it? And then that's what we base our decision on. It's not based on what, what we think people are pressuring us to do, but yet what we think we need to do. That's how we look at it.
With success, as a company, you have been in the top 5 for Cigar Aficionado since 2004. I mean, it's been an incredible run, and you deserve it. Do you every year, or are you beginning to feel this pressure of we have to be there, or is it just if we're there, we're there, but it is what it is, or do you feel you need to be there every year?
I mean, listen, we feel we need to be there regardless of Cigar Aficionado. That's how we're competitive. Our family is very competitive. Obviously, being in the top, cigars of the year in any magazine, especially in Cigar Aficionado, is a tremendous accomplishment. And, for us, it's an important thing. But, I think the pressure more than anything comes from ourselves.
Yeah.
We're the ones that want to do things the right way and want to do it as best as possible to continue the tradition. And that's where the pressure comes from.
Absolutely. I mean,
our products speak for themselves.
Oh, they
so
absolutely do.
It's a matter of us continuing what we've got and making them better and producing products that people like.
Every time I smoke an 80th Maduro, I say this. You can't get much better than this. It's my favorite. Will tell you the same thing. I handed him one from 2008 a couple years ago, and it's phenomenal. It's just
the
challenge.
The challenge is to meet the expectation of the consumer, where people expect a certain level of quality from Padron, and like you just said, they'll say, well, how are you going to top an 80th? How are you going to top this? How are you going to top that? That's the pressure that I feel, okay, we're going to do this, it's got to be good, it's got to be better. So, and it's very subjective. Some people will say that it's the best cigar they've ever had. Other people will say, listen, I like it, but I prefer another, the 85 or the 45 or whatever. So
I think we can all agree it's hard to top the 80th Maduro, though. So
as long as it's a Padron, I'm happy.
So, big year, obviously, this year. We talked about the 50th, and you have some cigars to go along with that. So let's talk about the Family Reserve 50th first. Now, my first question on that is, when the Family Reserve series launched in 2008 with the 44s?
Yeah.
Yep. So you've come out with some iterations of 45, the 46, and then the 85. Then you took a little break for the 50th. So what was the reason for the little bit of a break there?
I think it goes back to the pressure thing. I didn't want to feel like I was just putting out cigars, for the sake of maintaining that. At first I thought to myself, when we introduced the 44, I said, this could be something that we could do every year to celebrate the anniversary. But, as we got on with it, I'm like, I think I'm getting tired of this. I need to wait, and I need to save something for the 50th, and that's what we did. We said, let's just focus all of our energies from now on until to produce the cigars for the 50th anniversary, and that's what we did.
So the 50th have come along. Tell us a little about what makes those Family Reserves special.
Well, I mean, again, all of the cigars that we do, we take the same passion in making the cigar. I think, when we introduced the 50th, the Family Reserve 50th, it's something that we've worked on for, over a year, just working on the blends. But I think what makes it special is just the size of the cigar, the type of tobacco that we use, which is similar to what we've used in other Family Reserves. But I think the blend gives it a flavor that's, it's very complex, it's very balanced. It's not an overpowering cigar, but it's very smooth, and that's kind of what we wanted, and that's not always an easy thing to accomplish.
Exactly, and I kind of concur with that smoking nose. Now, is this the grand finale for the Family Reserve, or maybe down the road we'll see some more Family Reserves?
I think for now that's going to be it. We'll see what happens. I mean, we don't make, believe it or not, when we have something like the 50th, we plan it far in advance. But others, we have a lot of tobacco in inventory. It's just a matter of putting the blends together. But for now, I don't see us doing much. We've had a pretty busy year as it is, with all the things that have been going on with the 50th. So focus on that and keep it, make it the best as possible.
You mentioned big ring gauges earlier. We all know this is an industry where you have two factions almost. You have the guys who are saying, we want 60 ring gauges, we want big cigars. And then you have some of the other guys, a smaller group, but are very vocal, saying, we want Lanceros, we want Lonsdales, Panatellas. As a company, you've been able to kind of stay middle ground with the high 40s, low 50 ring gauges. Is that where you wish to go as a company, or do you see yourself wanting to make a Lancero, or do you reach out there? Do you ever feel pressure to go either way, big, small ring gauges?
No, again, we have responded to the market in terms of the big ring gauges. I think, as far as we've gone as a 60 ring gauge with the number 4 of the anniversary and the 7,000, I don't see us coming out with anything bigger than that for the time being. We're not ruling it out, but it's not something that's it's in the works right now. As far as the Lanceros, we're big fans of those cigars. Don't forget that my family's Cuban, and before 1990, when we started, producing all the cigars that we're selling now, we didn't make any cigars over 50 ring gauge. Everything we had was, 42. We had a 43. We had a one called Corona Real, which was like a 43 by 9-inch cigar.
Wow.
So, that is, kind of where our company was founded on. So, I don't rule out anything, in terms of Padron, but, making those types of cigars is a very difficult thing to do. And we want to make sure that if we make a cigar like a Lancero or like a thinner, longer cigar, like a Panatella, like a long Panatella, you want to make sure that cigar has to be rolled perfectly.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely
not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. I mean, even when you release the 60, I remember my retailer says, hey, I have the new 6460 in. I don't like big ring gauges. I said, all right, I'll give it a try. I smoked and was like, wow, this is a great 60 ring gauge. I think you can agree that it's probably one of the best 60 ring gauges out there because of that.
So turning to the other cigar that you're releasing this year is the 50-year Hammer. So it's a real special cigar. Now I saw some price points on that. It's going to be an expensive cigar, correct?
Well, yeah, the prices have been all over the place. We have had some changes on the pricing of the retail pricing of the overall package, because remember, it comes in a humidor of 50 cigars. So the retail price will be $5,300 for the set, for the box with the cigars and the humidor and the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful, beautiful humidor. I saw it at the trade show. How about the cigar itself? What can you tell us a little about that cigar? Because I'm chomping to smoke that thing.
Well, I mean, the cigar, obviously, we've been working on it for a long time. There's only one person that makes it. We've had him making around 250 cigars a day for quite some time. So it's taken us a long time to do it. But, I think I hate to get into descriptions of cigars because everybody has a different.
Right.
But I just, what I like to say about it is that it's something that is not gonna. It's a full-bodied cigar, but it's deceivingly full-bodied.
Right.
I think you'll find that it's very smooth. It has, some unique character notes to it, and tasting notes. So I think, I'm very happy with it. Put it that way. We're all very happy with it. So hopefully, it's something that'll be well accepted and people will love the cigar.
Would you look at this kind of maybe as now you had the Padron Millennium? Is this kind of the next, say the next generation of the Millennium? Is it something?
Yeah, you could say something like that. The idea is somewhat similar in that it comes in a humidor and it's a one-time production. We will be making additional cigars every year for our anniversary, which will be made available to the people who own the humidors. So unlike the Millennium, where it was a one-time deal, you buy the cigars and that's it, you're never going to be able to buy them again. With this, it's a little different in that, we will produce enough cigars to supply all of the owners of the humidors for for a minimum of 5 more years.
Awesome.
So they'll be able to purchase another 50 cigars every year for at least 5 years.
And natural and Maduro options with that?
Yeah. We would give the owner of the humidor the option as to if he wants natural or Maduro.
Beautiful, beautiful.
The next couple questions are more tobacco and what we call cigar geek kind of questions. Is that you're a company that is very known for the production of cigars, but you're a vertically integrated company in which you do everything. With your tobacco fields in Nicaragua, is there a region that speaks to you that really you say, "No, this is it. This is the region I love more than others"? And is there a region that you'd love to work with the tobacco from, or you ever thought about working with tobacco with?
Well, I mean, when my father started in Nicaragua in 1967, when he first tasted the tobacco from Nicaragua, he immediately, tasted tobacco from Jalapa. That was the first region that he tasted. And, for us, we stick to the traditional areas in Nicaragua, which are Estelí, Condega, and Jalapa. And that's where we've always been, and that's where we will continue to be. I think that one of the secrets to our brand has been the consistency with the raw material. And, people ask us a lot, why, what makes your cigar so consistently, why does it taste pretty similar from year to year? And I think part of that has to do with that we don't really tinker with that. We keep from the same farms, we grow the same tobacco.
Yeah.
And that helps establish that consistency. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you have a very consistent brand. It doesn't matter the year, boxes, stores, wherever you go, that Padron is going to taste the same. It's going to taste great no matter what.
Well, I mean, we're aware of the fact that, the most important thing for any brand is to have loyal customers. And in order to build loyal customers, you need to have quality, and you need to have it consistently. So, we don't worry so much about what our competitors are doing. We worry more about what we have to do to maintain what we've got. And that's kind of our philosophy, and that's, I think, what drives Padron Cigars.
Absolutely.
So along the lines of crops and consistency, was there ever that one year you've had where a crop came in and it just threw everything off, saying, oh man, it's not what it was the year before? And have you ever had to kind of go through some adjustments with that?
Well, I mean, you really don't have years where you say, well, it is completely off. What you have are years where you have less yield. And that affects, the overall quantity of tobacco that you harvest and the quality from a standpoint of how many, for example, if you're growing in Jalapa, you may have some years where you get more wrapper than others. So that affects the crop. That's what how you guide, that's how you determine whether a crop is a good crop or not. And it's always by yield. Yeah. It's not that the tobacco is going to taste bad, or it's not, it's just that you're not going to have as much of the better, like wrappers and all that stuff. So that's what really distinguishes, from year to year.
Yeah. The next kind of question is, there are a lot of companies now that are saying they're offering a new line or a new, it's a new line, I'd say, and they say it's different primings. They say so it's just more readily available, and we can offer these in primings. Is that something that you all would ever do? Is that something that you have no interest in, or is that something you do offer, kind of? Or
I'm not sure I understand what they mean by different priming.
I guess the best thing I can say is Drew Estate, when they announced the Undercrown, they said it's kind of more a lower priming Liga Privada 9, so it's more readily available. Is that something that you all would ever do, or is that just something that you're kind of going against?
Listen, there's only one way to do these things, You get the tobacco, you harvest it, you ferment it. You have to ferment it until where it has to be fermented, and if not, then you don't use it. And that's, every company's different, and I can't speak for what they're doing or what their marketing philosophies are or production philosophies, and whether they're right or wrong. All I can say is that with us, we're not messing around with that. I mean, it's a proven technique that's been going on for centuries. My dad in Cuba, they were tobacco growers. Today we do everything exactly the same way as they used to do it in Cuba, 50, 60, 70 years ago. So, while there are some new techniques that have evolved that improve like in terms of developing like the seed beds and all that type of stuff, that we do. But as
Yeah.
far as like the other part, like the pre-industrial part of fermentation, no, that all stays the same.
Yeah, you stick to the recipe that's worked for years.
Absolutely,
and it's the right
man. We don't
recipe.
mess around with
You
that.
don't play around with it. Well, you've been successful with it, so why change it?
Yeah.
So one question I'll ask, and I hate to ask this question, is FDA right now. So it's on everyone's mind. Kind of where are your thoughts on terms of how you think this may impact Padron? What are your thoughts maybe of where we're heading right now?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say how it's going to impact Padron because they haven't said what they're going to do yet. Obviously, the FDA regulations impact the smaller businesses considerably. Many small companies may not have the resources to comply or to deal with the FDA regulatory process. Obviously it's not a good thing for the industry, and especially the smaller companies that are fighting for survival, and that includes also the retail tobacconists that are mostly mom and pop businesses that may not survive what they may have to put into their stores to change the way they do business. From us, from the manufacturing end, we're going to stick around. We're going to be here. We're not going anywhere. We're going to fight, to the end, and we're going to, we'll adapt to whatever situation comes, and we're going to keep making quality products and let the chips fall where they may.
Excellent.
The last and final question, which is a fun question, is when any group of cigar smokers gets around smoking Padrones and they smoke them all, the questions always come up. So do you prefer 1926 or a 1964? Are you a natural or a Maduro? I think everyone has their preference. Do you find yourself preferring one brand, preferring one line in natural or Maduro overall?
I smoke a lot of Family Reserve cigars, but I smoke a lot of all of our cigars, to be honest with you. I mean, I smoke 64s, I smoke 26s, I smoke the Padron line. And it all depends. I mean, it really depends on what's going on, what I'm doing. Natural, Maduro. That's one of the great things about our company, that I feel confident smoking any of our cigars, and I know that I'm going to like it. So that's why we stay away from all these new introductions and new this and new that, because we like my dad said many years ago, we make cigars that we like to smoke. The ones we can't smoke, we sell.
I remember that. I remember
and that's kind of the philosophy. So
I mean, yeah.
So smoke Padron because that's what we smoke. So
and every time I've seen like photos or anything like that, you guys are always smoking. You're smoking your entire portfolio, which is great to see. It's not just one line that you're smoking.
Sure, yeah.
So that's wonderful. Willie, do you have any more questions, or is that it for us?
I think that's it for us. First of all, I want to thank George very much for taking some time. We really appreciate that. I know you're going to have a busy event here. We want to thank the Palm Steakhouse in Charlotte for the venue to do this very special interview. And, of course, we want to thank Mr. Craig Cass at the Tinderbox as well for this. So thank you, everybody, and we'll be signing off. Take care.
Thanks, George.
Thanks for the opportunity, George.
All right.